Gen Z not handling this whole Gen Z stare thing very well should surprise absolutely no one. A few weeks ago, their reaction to a video I made on Gen Z humor landed me in Newsweek. Ironically, I think the two are related because the thing that they were most angry at in my video was the actual like neutral observation part that was actually someone else's neutral observation, comedians on the different types of jokes that like millennials and Gen Z appreciate when they tell them. And the other thing they were most upset about was the fact that I was making an observation at all. Like there were a ton of comments that seemed completely unfamiliar with the idea of like sociological discussion and talking about behavioral dynamics. Like it seems that in a way there's this expectation to not be perceived or acknowledged by anyone else in the world. And I think that feeds into both the Gen Z stare itself and the reaction to it just being acknowledged. And by the way, shout out to all the Gen Z in my comments on those videos being like, guys, it's really not that big of a deal. I appreciate you. And I do suspect that you are the same brave soldiers doing the same in the Gen Z stare comments right now. Thank you for your service. But look at some of these comments. You mean the stare that shows that we're done? The stare that shows that we're mad about how millennials and Gen X are the reason we have to work for the rest of our lives? I don't think that staring at someone is gonna unalive them. I'ma be real. Anyone older than Gen Z lost common sense the second they walk into a building, just saying. Firstly, millennials and Gen X are not the reason you have to work for the rest of your lives. Genuinely no idea where that's coming from, but also that's not the stare they're talking about. At least I hope not, because you're just admitting that Gen Z is running around resenting everyone. A lot of creators have already illustrated what the Gen Z stare is, but this comment explains one example. No, the Gen Z stare is when you walk into a business and the person behind the counter doesn't greet you or anything, just stares at you like you don't belong there. And this is another response. Well, girl, get a move on with the transaction. I don't need to greet you like you're royalty. Good customer service is a privilege, not a right. And right now, millennials don't deserve it. Have a good day, though. What? Again, what did millennials do to you guys? You guys have made fun of millennials for years, and we've pretty much taken it like champs. Millennials have very little control over everything that's happening in the world right now. Also, good customer service is a privilege, not a right. Sure, but so is your job in customer service. As another person very astutely put it, you guys are making yourselves way more replaceable by AI. Like, at least the self-checkout tells me have a good day. No one loves small talk, but at least the sliding glass doors acknowledge my existence. Last time I checked, my job is to make your drink, take your payment, and answer your questions if necessary, not ask them. If you need help, ask for help. I'm not getting paid to play 21 questions. This was in response to someone being like, yeah, when you go to like a coffee shop and the barista just like stares at you, they don't prompt you to say like hot or cold or whatever. That is your job. Asking questions like, oh, do you want it hot or cold? If a person forgot to say hot or cold is your job, guys. And there's another side to the Gen Z stare when they're the customer and like a server or a retail worker is like, hi, welcome, like let me know if I can help you, or like, are you ready for your order? And they just get stared at in response. Do you ever think that they just don't want to respond? No one owes you a conversation or a response. If being ignored hurts your feelings, shut up. Why are we, quote, incapable of socializing when you old people are incapable of shutting the F up? Saw someone say, we didn't consent to a conversation as the reason. Of course, there's a lot of theories about why this is happening. The leading theories being, of course, like iPad kid slash chronically online generation, which is kind of a mix with kids and young adults that were stuck at home in the pandemic during crucial years, not developing in-person social skills. And I think that that is a big part of it for sure. I think it's very much related to my humor video because I don't know if I said this in the video or it was kind of discussed in the comments. Basically, I talked about referential humor being like this bootstrapping mechanism for having like an in-group. Of course, every generation has referential humor. It's just that Gen Z's media is largely things like TikTok. So a lot of the references they're making are just other people on the apps. So when they're making referential jokes, often the target of those jokes are just other normal people that put themselves online. So I think it's that mixed with the fact that media consumption right now is so passive. Algorithms basically figure you out, so you have to make as little effort as possible to even think or ask yourself like what you want, what you're gonna look for, whatever. So most communication and interaction is very much like receptive, but they're not going to react unless something elicits a strong enough reaction. So if someone says like, hi, let me know if you need help, or have a good day, they're just mentally swiping past it in a sense, or waiting for the next video to start playing. metaphorically. And as for their reaction to this observation, for the Newsweek article, I was asked, like, why do you think they're having such an intense reaction to this? And I was like, honestly, I think it's part of the same thing. And in that case, I meant if culturally a lot of humor is about piling on and making fun of like a random person on the internet, a lot of people are going to be afraid of being that random person on the internet. I think that's part of the whole like fear of being perceived. I think that can also mean that if something elicits a strong enough emotional response to lead someone or prompt them to actually react, they might understand that stronger emotional response as indicating an attack, even if what they're reacting to is in no way an attack or even directed at them. I think that that ultimately lends itself to high reactivity. Anyway, sorry, Gen Z, if this upset you in any way. It really isn't that big of a deal when people make observations on you or even criticize you. And I say that with love. I'm not trying to be condescending. Life is a lot easier when you start taking stuff in stride. This is my advice.